Most people think burnout comes from working too hard. They think it comes from long hours, impossible schedules, endless responsibilities, and constant pressure. But for empaths, burnout often comes from something much deeper. It comes from carrying what was never theirs to carry. An empath walks into a room and notices everything. The tension between two people who haven't spoken, the smile that hides frustration, the confidence that masks fear, the exhaustion behind someone's cheerful voice. While others hear words, the empath hears emotion. While others see behavior, the empath sees struggle. At first, this feels like a gift. People trust you. They open up to you. They tell you things they tell no one else. You become the safe place, the listener, the advisor, the one who understands. And because you understand, you help. You help when you're tired. You help when you're busy. You help when you're overwhelmed. You help even when no one asks. You see pain before anyone mentions it, and you rush toward it because your instinct is to relieve suffering. But there is a hidden danger in this. The human nervous system was not designed to carry the emotional weight of an entire community. It was not designed to absorb every fear, every disappointment, every anxiety, every frustration, and every crisis that crosses its path. Yet many empaths spend years doing exactly that. They become emotional first responders. Every problem becomes their problem. Every crisis becomes their responsibility. Every wounded person becomes a project to save. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin spending their emotional resources faster than they can replenish them. The dangerous part is that burnout rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with alarms. It doesn't send warnings in bold letters. Instead, it creeps in quietly. You become more tired than usual. You become less excited about things you once loved. Conversations feel heavier. Crowds feel exhausting. Small tasks feel enormous. You start needing more recovery time after social interactions. You feel emotionally full, yet strangely empty. And because you are an empath, you often ignore these signals. You tell yourself other people need you. You tell yourself you'll rest later. You tell yourself one more conversation won't hurt. One more favor, one more rescue, one more sacrifice. Until one day, your mind and body decide for you. And that is burnout. Burnout is not weakness. Burnout is not failure. Burnout is not proof that you care too much. Burnout is often proof that you have cared without boundaries. There is a difference. Many empaths secretly believe that boundaries are selfish. They believe saying no means abandoning people. They believe protecting their energy means becoming cold. But the truth is exactly the opposite. A boundary is not a wall. A boundary is a filter. It allows you to remain compassionate without becoming consumed. Because if every emotion enters your system unchecked, eventually your system stops functioning. Think about a ship. A ship is designed to be surrounded by water. That is its purpose. But the moment water starts entering the ship, it begins to sink. Empaths are similar. You can be surrounded by emotions. You can understand emotions. You can navigate emotions. But the moment you absorb every emotion as your own, you begin taking on water. And eventually, even the strongest ship goes under. One of the greatest lessons an empath can learn is this. Understanding someone's pain does not mean you must carry it. Supporting someone does not mean saving them. Listening does not mean absorbing. Caring does not mean sacrificing yourself. You are allowed to witness struggle without becoming responsible for it. You are allowed to love people without fixing them. You are allowed to be compassionate without becoming depleted. This realization changes everything. Because burnout is often the result of an identity built around being needed. Many empaths gain a sense of purpose from helping others. There is nothing wrong with helping. But problems begin when your value becomes dependent on helping. Then every request feels mandatory. Every crisis feels personal. Every person's happiness becomes your responsibility. And that is a burden no human being can sustain. The strongest empath is not the one who carries the most. The strongest empath is the one who knows what belongs to them and what does not. The strongest empath can step into a storm without becoming the storm. They can witness fear without inheriting fear. They can witness anger without inheriting anger. They can witness sadness without inheriting sadness. That skill changes lives. Because when you stop carrying everyone else's emotional weight, something remarkable happens. Your energy returns, your clarity returns, your creativity returns, your peace returns. You begin hearing your own thoughts again. You begin recognizing your own needs again. You begin reconnecting with the parts of yourself that were buried beneath years of emotional responsibility. And perhaps the most surprising thing happens of all. You become more effective, not less. More, because exhausted people cannot consistently help others, burned out people cannot continuously support others, an empty well cannot provide water, but a protected well can serve an entire village. That is why self-preservation is not selfish. It is strategic, it is necessary, it is responsible. The world does not need empaths who destroy themselves trying to save everyone. The world needs empaths who remain strong enough to keep showing up. So if you have been feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, emotionally drained, or disconnected, ask yourself a simple question. What have I been carrying that was never mine to carry? The answer may change your life, because the moment you put down what doesn't belong to you, you create space for what does, your purpose, your peace, your growth, your future. Empathy is a gift, but only when it is guided by wisdom. Without wisdom, empathy becomes exhaustion. Without boundaries, compassion becomes burnout. Without self-respect, service becomes self-destruction. Remember this. You are not here to absorb the suffering of the world. You are here to bring light into it. And a light that never gets recharged eventually goes dark. Protect your energy, protect your mind, protect your peace. Not because others don't matter, but because you matter too. And the healthiest version of you will always be more powerful than the exhausted version of you. That is the lesson most empaths learn too late. The moment an empath begins to recover, something unexpected happens. They start feeling guilty, not because they have done something wrong, but because they have stopped doing what they were conditioned to do. For years, maybe even decades, they trained themselves to move toward everyone else's needs before their own. They learned to anticipate disappointment before it appeared. They learned to solve problems before anyone asked. They learned to carry emotional burdens before those burdens even became visible. And when that pattern becomes part of your identity, stepping away from it feels uncomfortable. The mind begins asking dangerous questions. What if they need me? What if I disappoint them? What if they think I've changed? What if they think I'm selfish? What if they leave? These questions can trap an empath for years, because underneath many acts of self-sacrifice is a hidden fear. The fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, the fear that your value exists only in what you provide. Many empaths secretly believe that they must earn their place in people's lives. They must earn love, earn acceptance, earn connection, earn belonging. So they become indispensable. They become the helper, the fixer, the healer, the problem solver, the emotional support system for everyone around them. And at first it works. People appreciate them. People depend on them. People seek them out. But dependency is not the same thing as connection. Being needed is not the same thing as being loved. That distinction changes everything, because many empaths wake up one day and realize something painful. People know what they do for others, but very few people know who they truly are. Everyone knows the helper. Very few know the human being behind the helper. Everyone knows the strength. Very few know the struggle. Everyone knows the wisdom. Very few know the wounds. And that realization can feel lonely. Imagine spending years being available to everyone, only to discover that almost nobody notices when you are hurting. Not because they are cruel, but because you taught them to see you as unbreakable. You became so skilled at carrying everyone else's emotions that people forgot you had emotions of your own. You became so skilled at being strong that people stopped asking whether you were tired, and eventually, even you stopped asking. This is where burnout becomes dangerous, because exhaustion is no longer physical. It becomes existential. You start wondering who you are without the role. Who are you when you are not fixing? Who are you when you are not rescuing? Who are you when you are not carrying everyone else's weight? Many empaths discover that they have spent so much time understanding others that they have never truly understood themselves. They know everyone's dreams, everyone's fears, everyone's struggles, everyone's secrets. Yet, when asked what they want, they hesitate. When asked what they need, they struggle. When asked what makes them happy, they become uncertain. That is not because they lack identity. It is because they have spent so long focusing outward that they forgot to look inward. Recovery begins the moment that changes. Recovery begins when curiosity returns. Not curiosity about everyone else, curiosity about yourself. What energizes you? What drains you? What inspires you? What exhausts you? What are your boundaries? What are your values? What are your non-negotiables? These questions sound simple, but for many empaths, they are revolutionary. Because for the first time, attention is being directed toward the one person who has been overlooked for years, themselves. And here's what many people never realize. The healthiest empaths are not the most sensitive. They are the most aware. Awareness is what transforms empathy from a burden into a strength. Without awareness, every emotional signal becomes overwhelming. With awareness, emotions become information. Information can be observed. Information can be understood. Information can be respected. But information does not need to control you. A skilled empath learns to notice emotional energy without becoming emotionally captured by it. They recognize tension without absorbing tension. They recognize anxiety without becoming anxious. They recognize sadness without becoming sad. This is emotional mastery. And emotional mastery is very different from emotional suppression. Suppression says, I refuse to feel. Mastery says, I can feel without drowning. That ability becomes one of the greatest superpowers a human being can develop. Because the world is full of emotional weather. Fear moves through groups. Anger moves through families. Stress moves through workplaces. Panic moves through communities. Most people unconsciously absorb whatever emotional climate surrounds them. But the recovered empath learns something different. They become the thermostat instead of the thermometer. A thermometer simply reflects the temperature around it. A thermostat changes it. One reacts, the other influences. One absorbs, the other stabilizes. When an empath reaches this stage, their presence becomes powerful. Not because they are carrying everyone, but because they are grounded enough to remain steady while others are not. Their calm becomes contagious. Their clarity becomes valuable. Their strength becomes reliable. And people begin to trust them for a different reason, not because they solve every problem, but because they embody stability. This is the paradox most empaths spend years discovering. The more desperately you try to save everyone, the weaker you become. The more responsibly you manage your own energy, the stronger your impact becomes. Strength is not measured by how much pain you can carry. Strength is measured by how much wisdom you can apply. Anyone can sacrifice themselves. Very few people can protect themselves without losing their compassion. That is the real challenge, to remain open without becoming vulnerable to every emotional current. To remain caring without becoming consumed. To remain available without becoming depleted. To remain kind without abandoning yourself. The empath who learns this lesson becomes unstoppable because they finally understand a truth that changes everything. Your purpose was never to become a container for other people's suffering. Your purpose was to become an example of what emotional strength looks like, not perfection, not invulnerability, not endless sacrifice. Strength, the kind of strength that knows when to help. The kind of strength that knows when to step back, the kind of strength that knows when to listen, the kind of strength that knows when silence is necessary, the kind of strength that understands that every person must eventually carry their own journey. You can walk beside people. You cannot walk for them. You can guide people. You cannot grow for them. You can support people. You cannot heal them against their will. The moment you accept this, a tremendous weight falls from your shoulders. You realize that your job was never to save the world. Your job was to become the strongest, wisest, healthiest version of yourself possible. And from that place, help becomes sustainable. Compassion becomes sustainable. Service becomes sustainable. Life becomes sustainable. because a burned out empath eventually disappears. There is a side of empathy that almost nobody talks about. People celebrate empathy. They praise it. They encourage it. They call it a gift. And in many ways, it is. But every gift comes with a responsibility. Every strength contains a vulnerability. Every advantage has a shadow. And the shadow of empathy is emotional absorption. This is the moment when understanding becomes ownership, when awareness becomes attachment, when compassion becomes self-neglect. Most empaths don't realize when this shift occurs. It happens quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. At first, you simply care about people. Then you begin worrying about them. Then you begin monitoring them. Then you begin carrying them. And eventually, you begin living through them. Their mood determines your mood. Their success determines your peace. Their disappointment determines your energy. Their struggle becomes your struggle. Without realizing it, your emotional state becomes connected to circumstances you cannot control. And the moment your peace depends on things you cannot control, suffering becomes inevitable. Think about how often this happens. Someone enters a room frustrated. Within minutes, you feel frustrated. Someone arrives anxious. Soon your nervous system becomes anxious. Someone is angry. You suddenly feel tension in your chest. Someone is overwhelmed. Now you are overwhelmed too. The empath often assumes these feelings belong to them, but many times they don't. Many times they are carrying emotional residue from the people around them. And because they never learn to separate what is theirs from what belongs to others, everything gets mixed together. Their own emotions, other people's emotions, old emotions, new emotions, real concerns, imagined concerns, past wounds, present situations. The result is confusion, mental exhaustion.